In 1893, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had got so sick of writing Sherlock Holmes stories that he sent his detective hurtling to his death off the Reichenbach Falls. Good, he thought. Now I can get on with writing dull historical novels. And despite public outcry, a man of such stalwart moustache would not be swayed. Holmes was dead. Until, almost a decade later, Sir Arthur Conan Ignatius Doyle went on a trip to Dartmoor for a rambling holiday, and was so struck by the moor's desolate scenery and its eerie myths that he was finally inspired to resurrect his beloved detective in what I believe was his greatest work, The Hound of the Baskervilles. And yes, I can already hear a few of you scrolling down to comment that Holmes actually returns from the dead in The Empty House, and I know that, but The Hound of the Baskervilles was the first Holmes story written after the 8-year wait, with Watson remembering an old case from when Holmes was alive, so stick that in your Persian slipper and smoke it. Anyway, let's follow in Sir ACD's footsteps by rambling out onto Dartmoor, and I'll try to explain why The Hound of the Baskervilles isn't just my favourite Holmes story, but my favourite piece of detective fiction, full stop. It might even be my favourite of the books. There will be spoilers throughout from here on in, but you've had 125 years to read the book, so my sympathies are slight. Let me demonstrate the genius of The Hound of the Baskervilles. Welcome back to the Dartmoor podcast. Righto, The Hound of the Baskervilles, like all Sherlock Holmes stories, has a massive advantage over other detective stories because it has a Sherlock Holmes in it. Surely one of the greatest fictional characters ever created, the first superhero. Yes, except Hercules and that lot. Yes, and the Scarlet Pimpernel and Robin Hood. Yes, I get the point. But Holmes is maybe the first modern superhero. With his superpower of deduction, he fights for justice and the law. He's handy in a fight, is a master of disguise, and always gets his man. But not always his woman. And Doyle imbues him with enough flaws and idiosyncrasies to make him human and, well, fun. As Watson puts it himself, as the bewildering action of The Hound of the Baskervilles reaches its denouement, one of Sherlock Holmes' defects, if indeed one may call it a defect... Hang on, what's this?
I'm going to read the extracts as we go through the episode.
I don't like it. Why can't I just read them?
Well, we didn't film quite enough Dartmoor footage to cover all the bits, so I thought we'd hide that with this kind of Edwardian version of myself.
I hate it.
We'll get used to it. One of Sherlock Holmes' defects, if indeed one may call it a defect, was that he was exceedingly loath to communicate his full plans to any other person until the instant of their fulfilment. Partly it came, no doubt, from his own masterful nature, which loved to dominate and surprise those who were around him. Partly also from his professional caution, which urged him never to take any chances. The result, however, was very trying for those who were acting as his agents and assistants.
And, of course, there is a third reason for Holmes's reticence to reveal his insights. That it would spoil the plot. Holmes may well always have a wry smile on his lips and a sparkle in his eye, as he already holds all the answers, but it would be a very short and unsatisfying story for us if we could see into his mind. Watson is a very clever narrative perspective device. He's also courageous, loyal, dependable, and smart, but only as smart as us, so that we are his companions in trying to unravel the improbable strands of a Holmes mystery. He's always got his revolver, and of course he's useful as a doctor, though he does seem to cure most ills by just pouring brandy into people, which makes me question his credentials slightly. Dr. Watson gets to shine in The Hound of the Baskervilles, as Holmes deigns to stay in London for the first half of the novel, leaving Watson alone to bimble about the moors and keep an eye on his charge, the aristocratic heir, Henry Baskerville, named, as the obligatory factoid goes, after Sir Arthur's coach driver for his holiday across the moor. And the chemistry between Holmes and Watson makes them more than the sum of their parts. When Watson tracks down a mysterious stranger hidden out among the Bronze Age huts of the moor, we find, of course, that it's Holmes, and he's been impishly hiding out there all along, watching events from afar. It's a moment of fantastic fraternity between the characters, Watson's relief and Holmes's mirth, and the story receives a boost as Mr. Sherlock Holmes enters the fray proper. But what elevates this above your regular Holmes mystery, I feel, is the supernatural or seemingly supernatural element. I mean, how can you go wrong plot-wise with a hellhound being used as a murder weapon to scare poshos to death? And that hound is Dartmoor through and through. There are the wished hounds of Wistman's Wood, a pack of ferocious black dogs who ride out with the devil at night to run down any unbaptised sinners foolish enough to be wandering the moor under a full moon. And then there is the legend of Richard Cable, buried in the ruined grounds of Buckfastleigh Church, who also roams abroad at night with his pack of terrifying hellhounds, and almost certainly inspired the Baskervilles curse, which sparks off the whole adventure. The way Doyle delays revealing whether the big ghost dog even exists or not until the very end is masterful. And when the beast does appear, exploding out of a fog bank in the moonlight, pursuing its human prey, the writing does not disappoint.
"Hist!" cried Holmes, and I heard the sharp click of a cocking pistol. "Look out! It's coming!" There was a thin, crisp, continuous patter from somewhere in the heart of that crawling bank. The cloud was within 50 yards of where we lay, and we glared at it, all three uncertain what horror was about to break from the heart of it. I was at Holmes's elbow, and I glanced for an instant at his face. It was pale and exultant, his eyes shining brightly in the moonlight. But suddenly they started forward in a rigid, fixed stare, and his lips parted in amazement. At the same instant Lestrade gave a yell of terror and threw himself face downwards upon the ground. I sprang to my feet, my inert hands grasping my pistol, my mind paralysed by the dreadful shape which had sprung out upon us from the shadows of the fog. A hound it was, an enormous, coal-black hound, but not such a hound as mortal eyes have ever seen. Fire burst from its open mouth, its eyes glowed with a smouldering glare, its muzzle and hackles and dewlap were outlined in flickering flame. Never in the delirious dream of a disordered brain could anything more savage, more appalling, more hellish be conceived than that dark form and savage face which broke upon us out of the wall of fog.
I like how even here, after 200 pages of no hound, he holds off its appearance by lingering on Lestrade and Holmes's reactions first.
And then in like one more paragraph it's dead, because it's just a big dog when they shoot it. Which is a bit rubbish when you think about it.
Anyway, there's so much to praise about the plot of this story that there isn't time to cover it all here. But
Here's
one little thing I really
like.
Oh, this is getting really silly now.
Just let me do it. It'll be fine.
Go on.
So, you know how in a detective novel you've got different suspects and the writer throws in red herrings so you don't know who's done it until the end? And I normally find that quite unsatisfying because, you know, the author just makes it so it could be anyone, really. In here, there's a concrete, like cast iron clue that Conan Doyle gives us, where if we know about a very specific thing, then we know that Stapleton is the man behind it all. He gives himself away, but you need to know such a niche thing that that it probably escapes almost everyone. But it didn't escape me because I'm a bird watcher. I'll read you a bit. So they hear this horrible long howl which like terrifies Watson, and Stapleton goes, "Oh, the peasants say it's the Hound of the Baskervilles." He says, "Well, you don't believe that. What do you think it is?" And he says this: "Bogs make queer noises sometimes. It's the mud settling or the water rising or something." And Watson says, No, that was a living voice." "Well, perhaps it was. Did you ever hear a bittern booming?" "No, I never did. It's a very rare bird, practically extinct in England now. But all things are possible on the moor. Yes, I should not be surprised to learn that what we have heard is the cry of the last of the bitterns." Now, a bittern's boom does not sound anything like a hound's howl. It sounds like someone blowing into the top of a bottle, like a ooh. Also, it's the wrong time of year for bitterns to be calling. They wouldn't be calling like in early autumn, late summer. And also just not on Dartmoor. He does say, "Oh, the last of the bitterns, they're rare." But no, it's completely the wrong habitat. There've never been any bitterns on Dartmoor. There's no like reed beds. And even if there were, they wouldn't be booming. in September or October, and even then, it wouldn't sound anything like this blood-curdling howl they described. And Stapleton would know that as well. That's the thing. He's a naturalist, so that shows that he's deliberately trying to hide something instead of just saying, "Oh, well, yeah, maybe it's a big dog making that howl. Should we go and find it?" He tries to throw Watson off with this sort of nonsense story. I think that's really cool, because obviously most people would miss it. Most people would go, "Oh yeah, maybe it could be a bit." Just one of the little flickers of genius in here, I think.
There's more to the Hound of the Baskervilles than a villainous entomologist with a savage hound. Part bloodhound, part mastiff, all XL bully. It's not just a whodunit, but a what if a ghost done it, blending detective fiction with something more gothic. As a reader, we, like Watson, are unsure of the boundaries of the novel's reality, and part of us, dare I say, wants the solution to be a devil dog on the moor, fulfilling the conditions of a centuries-old curse. The only person not entertaining this possibility is, of course, Holmes, and by pitting him against a Dartmoor legend, Conan Doyle is setting reason loose on myth. The real enemy is superstition, which Stapleton will use to almost get away with murder. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle believed in fairies. No, really. He wrote an impassioned pamphlet in defence of the Cottingley fairies photographs. He believed in telepathy, seances, and was convinced that Houdini was somehow genuinely using magic to perform his feats of escapology. All this makes it absolutely baffling to me that he was able to write a character like Holmes, his polar opposite. And nowhere is this tension between the rational man of science and the world of spiritual woo more apparent than in The Hound of the Baskervilles. At the turn of the century, with the golden Victorian age fading away, perhaps Doyle was admitting, in a way, that it was time to leave behind the superstition of the past and fully embrace the new age of reasoned scientific progress. Or perhaps he's simply saying that we should apply the same rigorous practice of scientific deduction to the supernatural in order to understand it better and weed out the fakes. Either way, it's a message I can get behind.
The devil's agents may be of flesh and blood, may they not? There are two questions waiting for us at the outset. The one is whether any crime has been committed at all. The second is, what is the crime and how was it committed? Of course, if Dr. Mortimer's surmise should be correct and we are dealing with forces outside the ordinary laws of nature, there is an end to our investigation. But we are bound to exhaust all other hypotheses before falling back on this one.
What a beautiful day. Dartmoor isn't just the perfect setting for this story, it's the only setting. Nowhere else have I seen such a perfect meshing of plot and place as in The Hound of the Baskervilles. Rather than just a moody backdrop, Dartmoor and its unique features are integral to the events of the tale. The isolated community of isolated manors, just a short walk over the moor in the dark from one another. The convict escaped from Dartmoor's looming prison. The Bronze Age huts where said convict hides. The tor upon which we glimpse Holmes silhouetted heroically against the moon, and the thick fog which rolls in unexpectedly to almost scupper his plan. And, of course, there's the great Grimpen Mire, which drags the moor's ponies and, presumably, the novel's antagonist to their harrowing and soggy ends.
That is the great Grimpen Mire, said he. A false step yonder means death to man or beast. Only yesterday I saw one of the moor ponies wander into it. He never came out. I saw his head for quite a long time craning out of the bog hole, but it sucked him down at last. Even in dry seasons it's a danger to cross it. but after these autumn rains it's an awful place. And yet I can find my way to the very heart of it and return alive. By George, there's another of those miserable ponies. Something brown was rolling and tossing among the green sedges. Then a long, agonised, writhing neck shot upwards, and a dreadful cry echoed over the moor.
It's a grim, cold, misty day, and I'm walking towards Foxtop Mire to go and stomp about in it and film it. What am I doing?
Yes, Dartmoor really got to him all right. Sir ACD must have stood somewhere near this spot in his tweed suit and dashing moustache, contemplating this vast depth of deadly peat bog in front of him, the pieces of the puzzle that would make up his great novel clicking into place.
So, The Shitting Hound of the Baskervilles, hey? What a bloody book.
Well, quite. I'm biased, obviously, but can you think of a better marriage of setting and story than this, with my wild and wonderful Dartmoor dictating the events of the unfolding mystery? It's a page-turner, it's spooky, and it's short. Perfect for an autumn backpack camp. And there's substance among the suspense, too, with Conan Doyle struggling with that tension between the clear call of the rational future and the enticing myths of the past. And maybe the true message is that there is nothing to fear except fear itself. And huge savage black dogs trained to hunt you down and tear your throat out. Right, class, if you want some homework, the next Dartmoor novel I'll be dissecting is, and this is fun to say, Agatha Christie's Sitterford Mystery. I'll probably do it next year, so you've plenty of time to read ahead. Thanks for listening. See you next time.